Picture this for a second. It's a Tuesday morning, nothing unusual, you're just getting your coffee, and then the news hits. Something big, the kind of thing nobody saw coming. Within 48 hours, the shelves are empty, gas stations are dry, and people are already knocking on doors that aren't theirs. So you walk over to your safe, and whatever's sitting in there better be the right answer, because there isn't a second chance to fix this one. Here's the thing though, most Americans own guns, but very few actually own the right ones. The 10 firearms on this list weren't picked because they look cool on camera, or because some influencer told you to buy them. These are the guns that genuinely work when everything else stops working. And by the time we get to number 1, you'll see exactly why it's the only rifle that truly belongs in every American home before things get serious. So guys, let's get into it. Number 10. Henry AR-10 Survival Rifle. This one sits at number 10 because it fills a role nothing else on this list does, and the reason most people skip it is exactly why it matters. When you're talking survival, you're eventually talking about being on foot with what you can carry. The AR-10 solves that problem in a way that sounds simple until you actually think about it. A complete rifle that fits inside a waterproof stock the size of a loaf of bread, weighs 3.5 pounds, floats, built for pilots who had to disappear into hostile territory with minimal gear. Here's what changes everything though. The ammo. 1,000 rounds of .22 LR weighs about 10 pounds and costs less than most people spend on coffee in a month. You could carry enough ammunition to feed this rifle for months without it becoming a burden. For small game, rabbits, squirrels, birds, it's effective and quiet matters more than people realize when you don't want to advertise where you are. The downsides are real. It's not a fighting gun, it lacks accuracy past a certain distance, and it doesn't have stopping power for serious threats. But that's the trade-off for portability this extreme. Price sits around $319 to $375, which is cheap insurance for something that might save your life. Number 9. Kel-Tec Sub-2000. This is where things get practical, in a way most survival lists ignore completely. The Sub-2000 is a 9mm carbine that folds in half. That's the entire design philosophy, and it solves a problem most people don't think about until it's too late. When you can't predict where you'll be or what you'll need to grab quickly, a rifle that becomes pocket-sized changes everything. Here's the real advantage though. If you own a Glock 19, the Sub-2000 uses the exact same magazines. One caliber, one magazine type, 2 completely different weapons. A 30-round mag comes out of your carbine and goes straight into your pistol without any conversion. When ammunition becomes scarce and every round counts, that kind of overlap isn't luxury, it's survival logic. The folding mechanism collapses it down to 16 inches, which means vehicle storage, backpack carry, or keeping it completely out of sight until you need it. 9mm recoil is soft enough that anyone in your family can handle it under stress. Range is the trade-off. This carbine works out to 150 yards, not much beyond. But for home defense and feeding the same ammo as your sidearm, the value is hard to match. Pricing runs $499 to $599. Number 8. Smith & Wesson 6.86 Revolver. Most people building a survival arsenal forget one critical thing, and it costs them dearly when it matters most. They stack their safe with shiny semi-automatics and never stop to think about what happens when a magazine gets lost, bent, or simply refuses to feed. The S&W 686 doesn't care about any of that drama. It's a revolver. And that's the entire point. When complexity starts failing, simplicity quietly takes over. Chambered in .357 Magnum, this gun lives in that sweet spot where it hits hard enough to ruin somebody's day, but not so hard that you can't actually control it. The clever part is that it also shoots .38 Special, so you practice cheap and load serious when it counts. During an ammo shortage, that's a luxury most semi-autos simply don't offer. The build is the next thing you notice. This thing was designed to be ignored, abused, and still fire every single time. No magazines to lose, no slides to jam, no springs to betray you. Just pull the trigger, and the cylinder does the rest. The downside is capacity, only 6 rounds. But if 6 well-placed shots don't fix it, you've got bigger problems. Expect to pay $750 to $900 for pure mechanical reliability. Number 7. Beretta 301 Tactical. If you've only thought about shotguns in terms of the pump-action Mossberg or Remington sitting in Grandpa's closet, the Beretta 1301 Tactical is going to flip your entire perspective on what a shotgun can actually do. And this isn't a hunting gun playing dress-up to look tactical. It's a semi-automatic combat shotgun built on decades of military and law enforcement use. And that heritage shows in how it runs. The semi-auto action is where everything changes. You fire, it cycles automatically, and you're ready for the next shot without working a pump like you're stuck in 1985. In a defense situation where seconds matter and adrenaline is hammering through your system, that difference between racking a slide and just pulling the trigger again is enormous. The Beretta cycles smoothly, handles recoil better than most people expect, and the ergonomics are built for someone actually using it under stress. Load it with buckshot, and you've got a devastating close-quarters weapon. Switch to slugs, and you're extending your range to distances that make people take you seriously. The magazine tube holds 8 rounds of 12 gauge, and reloads are fast because the design assumes you'll need them. The real edge over a pump shotgun is reliability under rapid fire and shootability under pressure. Pump guns are fine, but the Beretta was engineered by people who watched operators run shotguns for real. Price is the catch. $1,400 to $1,700 depending on configuration. That's roughly 3 pump guns stacked on top of each other. But if you want one shotgun to handle everything, this is the one worth stretching the budget for. Number 6. Ruger 1022 Takedown .22 LR. Here's where the list gets interesting because this is the gun that breaks every rule people think they understand about survival firearms. The 1022 Takedown is a .22 LR rifle that comes apart with a single screw, fits in a backpack, and costs less than most people spend on a decent pair of boots. But the real story isn't portability, it's ammunition math. 1,000 rounds of .22 LR weighs around 10 pounds and costs somewhere between $80 and $100. That number changes your entire approach to stockpiling. You could spend $200 and have enough ammunition to feed this rifle for a year. Compare that to $500 for 1,000 rounds of rifle ammunition, and suddenly the 1022 isn't a backup gun. It's your primary food procurement platform. Rabbits, squirrels, birds, anything small enough to eat and quiet enough that you're not broadcasting your location. The mechanics are stupid simple. Blowback operation, minimal moving parts, and field stripping takes less than a minute with 0 tools. If something breaks, replacement parts cost pocket change at any gun shop. Accuracy out to 50 yards is genuinely good, and beyond that, you're limited more by your skill than the rifle itself. The obvious limitation is power. This isn't a fighting rifle. It won't stop a threat at distance, but as a food getter, training platform, and a way to carry thousands of rounds without crushing your spine, almost nothing competes. You're looking at $250 to $350 for the Takedown, which leaves money left over for actual ammunition. Number 5. Mossberg 500. Most people overlook the Mossberg 500 because it doesn't look impressive and it doesn't fit the tactical fantasy that sells guns on YouTube. It's ugly. It's simple. It's been around since 1961 doing the exact same job without needing to evolve. And that's precisely why it matters more than you probably think. Load buckshot and it becomes a home defense weapon that stops threats at distances where aiming barely matters. Switch to slugs and suddenly you're hunting deer past 100 yards. Grab birdshot and you've got a small game platform. One gun, 3 completely different combat roles. No receivers to swap, no uppers to change, just ammunition. That flexibility is why every serious prepper has one tucked away in their safe. The pump action is where the reliability lives. You work the slide yourself, so there's no gas system to foul, no springs to fail, no electronics hiding inside waiting to betray you. This shotgun will fire ammunition so old and degraded you wouldn't dare trust it in anything else. It works wet, dirty, and after sitting untouched for years. Here's the part that gets people excited once they understand it. The Mossberg 500 is cheap enough that you don't have to pick a role. Own a hunting setup, a home defense setup, and still spend less than one quality rifle. Parts are everywhere. Barrels swap in seconds. And you could rebuild it with basic tools. The real cost is practice. A pump shotgun demands you actually know how to use it. But at $320 to $480, you're getting a complete, versatile, practically indestructible firearm for less than most people spend on a weekend getaway. The real question is why you don't already own two. Number 4. Springfield M1A and AR-10. Up to this point, we've been talking about firearms that handle close-range threats, small game, or defensive distances inside 200 yards. The M1A and the AR-10 belong to a completely different conversation entirely. Chambered in .308 Winchester, these rifles operate at distances where everything else on this list politely runs out of capability. And that single advantage flips their entire role in a survival arsenal. Think about what the .308 round actually does. It drops elk and large game cleanly at 300 yards, cuts through cover that stops smaller calibers cold, and reaches combat distances past 500 yards in trained hands. When a threat is moving toward your property from a distance most rifles can't even engage at, the .308 ends that situation before it becomes your problem. The Springfield M1A is the civilian version of the M14, the rifle that served the U.S. military for years and built a reputation that still earns respect today. The AR-10 takes a different path in giving you the same .308 punch on a platform that feels familiar to anyone who already runs an AR-15. Same controls, same manual of arms, same accessory ecosystem. Both fire semi-automatically and feed from detachable magazines holding 10 to 20 rounds. The honest trade-off is weight. These rifles are heavier, and the ammunition weighs nearly twice as much per round. You won't carry the same volume, and you won't move as fast. Pricing isn't gentle. A quality M1A runs $1,800 to $2,200, while a serious AR-10 build sits between $1,600 and $2,400. Real money, but you're buying real reach. Number 3. AK-47/AKM. Here's where the comments section is about to lose its mind, because the AK-47 sitting at number 3 on an American survival list is going to upset a lot of people who think the AR-15 is the only correct answer to every question. Too bad for them, because the AK earned this spot the same way it's earned its reputation everywhere else on the planet, by being almost impossible to break. This is the rifle that was designed for soldiers who couldn't read instruction manuals, fighting in mud, sand, and snow, in conditions that would turn lesser rifles into very expensive paperweights. The AK doesn't care if you cleaned it last week or last decade. It doesn't care if the ammunition is corroded, surplus, or just plain sketchy. You pull the trigger, it goes bang. That's the entire pitch, and it's been working for nearly 80 years across every continent on Earth. Chambered in 7.62 by 39, the AK hits noticeably harder than 5.56 NATO at close to medium range. Inside 200 yards, that round delivers more energy on target, punches through cover more aggressively, and ends arguments faster. You sacrifice some accuracy at distance compared to an AR, but for realistic engagement ranges, the AK is more devastating per shot. Here's what matters for actual survival logistics. The 7.62 by 39 cartridge is the most produced rifle round in human history. Billions of rounds exist worldwide, and even during the worst American ammo shortages, surplus stayed more available than premium 5.56. The trade-offs are what you'd expect. Heavier, clunkier ergonomics, thinner aftermarket. None of that changes the truth that this rifle keeps running when others quit. Expect to pay $900 to $1,300 from a reputable maker like Zastava or Palmetto State Armory. Number 2, Glock 19 and Glock 20. Now we're getting into the picks that genuinely matter. And the reason these two handguns share the number 2 spot isn't because we ran out of slots. It's because they're the same platform doing two completely different jobs. And together, they cover almost every handgun scenario a survival situation could throw at you. Let's start with the Glock 19, because this is the handgun every serious person in the firearms world eventually owns. Chambered in 9mm, it's been the standard sidearm for police departments, special operations units, and armed citizens across the globe for decades. The reason isn't because it's pretty or the most accurate pistol on the market. It's because the Glock 19 does exactly what it's supposed to do every single time you pull the trigger. And that kind of consistency becomes priceless when stress is involved and your life depends on the next shot working. The Glock 20 is the same design scaled up to handle 10mm auto. And this is where it gets interesting for survival use. The 10mm round bridges the gap between handgun and rifle in a way nothing else really does. Powerful enough to take down deer and hogs, capable of stopping aggressive bears, and still controllable enough that you can actually run it under pressure. If you live anywhere near wilderness, predators, or large game, the Glock 20 isn't a luxury. It's a legitimate primary defense option. Owning both makes more sense than picking one. The frames are nearly identical, the controls are identical, and the manual of arms transfers completely between them. Train on one, you've trained on both. The Glock 19 becomes your everyday carry and indoor defense option. The Glock 20 becomes your woods gun and bear country pistol when 9mm isn't enough. The ammunition seals it. 9mm is the most produced handgun cartridge in America, so in any collapse scenario, you'll find it before almost anything else. 10mm is rarer, but it's a specialty round you'd be stockpiling specifically. Magazines are everywhere, parts are cheap, and the aftermarket support is unmatched in the handgun world. Pricing runs $500 to $650 for the Glock 19 and $600 to $750 for the Glock 20. Together, that's less than a single quality rifle for two complementary handgun platforms. Number 1. AR-15 5.56 NATO. And here we are, the top of the list, the moment of truth. If you've been watching this whole video wondering whether the AR-15 would actually take the crown, the answer was always yes. And it wasn't even close. Not because it hits the hardest, not because it reaches the farthest, and definitely not because it looks the coolest in a tactical photo shoot. The AR-15 takes the top spot because in an American survival scenario, no other rifle on this planet matches it for the one thing that actually keeps you alive in the long run. And that's pure, boring, beautiful availability. Let's put this in perspective. This is the most widely produced rifle in American history. Tens of millions of them are out there right now, sitting in private safes, police cruisers, military armories, and gun store shelves in every single state. 5.56 NATO rounded fires is the most stockpiled rifle cartridge on the continent. If the supply chain collapsed tomorrow, you would still find AR parts, magazines, and ammunition before you found bread. That's not marketing, that's math, and math is exactly why this rifle wins. The platform itself is genuinely brilliant. 2 pins separate the upper and lower receivers, which means you can swap calibers, barrel lengths, or configurations in under a minute. Need shorter for vehicle work? Done. Want to switch to .300 blackout? Done. Recoil is mild enough that anyone in your family can shoot it accurately, and it's light enough to carry all day. Pair that with the biggest accessory ecosystem in the firearms world, and you've got a weapon that adapts to literally anything. Here's the survival logic nobody talks about. If a firing pin or buffer spring breaks, you can walk into almost any gun shop or fellow shooter's parts bin and replace it within hours. Try that with some boutique European rifle and watch it become a very expensive paperweight overnight. Pricing? Budget builds run $600 to $800. Mid-tier from Aero Precision or Bravo Company sits at $1,000 to $1,500, and premium Daniel Defense rigs climb past $2,000. For most people, mid-tier is plenty. So guys, that's the list. 10 firearms that actually make sense if things go sideways in America, picked for reliability, availability, and real-world performance, not hype. If you take nothing else from this video, remember this. The gun that saves your life isn't the one with the longest spec sheet. It's the one you can still feed, fix, and shoot when nothing else is working. Now I want to hear from you. If you could only grab 3 guns from this list and walk out the door tomorrow, which 3 are you taking and why? Drop your answer in the comments because that's where the real conversation happens. If you think I missed something that absolutely belongs on this list, tell me what it is and make your case. If this video gave you something useful, hit that like button right now because it genuinely helps more people find this kind of content. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next breakdown because we've got more coming that'll help you think clearer and prepare smarter. Share this with someone who needs to hear it before they make an expensive mistake with their own setup. See you in the next one.